Attention! Yearbook photographs will be taken during third period today and will be used to humiliate you for the rest of your life. That is all.
Hi, I'm Michael Moore, and welcome again to The Awful Truth. Now, I want to begin tonight's show by telling you a little story from American history. Back in the 1860s, we had a civil war in this country. The South decided to break away because they believed in slavery. They hated the federal government. They loved state government. A lot of nutty Christian conservatives were running things, and, well, after 4 or 5 years, they lost the war. Or I guess I should say they lost the battle. Because I believe now, 135 years later in the United States of America, the South, the Confederacy, has finally won. I mean, look at what we're living in, folks. I mean, the black Americans still live in the lowest rungs of the economic ladder. We've got Christian conservatives still controlling Congress. I mean, if you want to run for president in this country, you got to be from the South. I mean, look at it. The last 3 elections, every candidate is from the South. Bush this year from Texas, Gore from Tennessee, Clinton's from Arkansas, Daddy Bush from Texas, and Dole from Confederate Kansas. I mean, let's face it, they won, right? And they're having this big brouhaha down in South Carolina about the Confederate flag. They want it taken down over the state capitol. I want it to stay up. I want to know where all the bigots and the rednecks and the racists and the nutcases are. I say fly that flag proudly. And what better place to fly the Confederate flag than a city that is the home of conservative talk show host Rush Limbaugh, William F. Buckley, a Republican mayor, a Republican governor, a death penalty, dozens of blacks shot and killed by the New York police. Yes, sirree, folks. Tonight we're flying the Confederate flag right here in Times Square, New York City. Fly, you beautiful bastard, fly! Ho-ho! Who are some really badass criminals?
Manson.
Manson?
The Unabomber.
Boston Strangler.
Boston Strangler?
I think Bundy would be up there. Absolutely.
Ted Bundy?
Jeffrey Dahmer?
Oh, that guy's a lightweight, all right? They're all lightweights.
You think?
Yeah, you want to see the real thing?
Absolutely.
I'll show you some real criminals. Watch this.
There is a crime problem in America. But thanks to tougher laws, tougher judges, and the mass roundups of undesirables, the streets of America are safer. Murder, down. Robbery, down. Crimes against property, down. Yet, America still cannot sleep soundly at night. For there lurks among us a terrifying group of hoodlums who prey upon the innocent and the unsuspecting. Their crimes cost the taxpayer over $3 trillion a year, and each year they steal more than all burglaries combined. They kill more people than all the murderers in America. Who are these thugs, these punks, these lowlifes? They are the corporate criminals. Their weapon is not a gun, but a pen. They run loose, not on the streets, but in the suites. And even though those charged with catching them can talk the talk,
one of the worst forms of criminal conduct I know,
they cannot walk the walk. And thus the corporate crook roams free throughout the land, polluting the air, defrauding the senior citizen, embezzling, price-fixing, dangerous products, death on the job. Yet, the evening news ignores their activities. The Congress passes no laws to stop them. The cops make no arrests. That's why tonight, The Awful Truth, as a service to the American people, is premiering a new series dedicated to rounding up the corporate crook and his unindicted co-conspirators and putting them all away. It's called Corporate Cops.
Bad boy!
Tonight, Michael Moore attempts to corral a criminal corporation and apprehend 3 convicted corporate criminals currently on the loose.
The corporation, C.R. Bard, a medical device manufacturer based in Murray Hill, New Jersey. In 1993, C.R. Bard pled guilty to 391 counts of fraud, conspiracy, and knowingly testing illegal heart catheters on human subjects. These catheters were related to the deaths of at least 2 people and emergency surgeries on 17 more because the tips of the catheters broke off inside people's bodies. Bard was fined $61 million for their crimes, and in separate trials in 1996, 3 former executives from Bard's Massachusetts division, David Prigmore, John Sivanar, and Lee Leichter, were sentenced to jail terms for their roles in the conspiracy. That was 4 years ago, and these 3 men have not served 1 day in jail. They are all out on appeal. So I headed off to Union County, New Jersey, to hunt for the 3 executives near Bard's corporate headquarters. First, I checked in with the county prosecutor to see if he was working the corporate case. Yeah, you familiar with Bard?
No.
They're responsible for the injury or death of at least 17 people. With the heart catheters? The catheters went wrong? Yeah, Bard.
Wait. They're here in this
Westfield,
county, or
yeah.
they're responsible for deaths in this county?
No, they're based here. Do you prosecute corporate criminals here in Union County?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Do you have any in the jail right now?
We do not.
But between, like, say, street crimes and corporate crimes, what do you think you prosecute more of?
Street crimes.
By what? 50-50? 60-40?
95-5.
95-5.
97-3.
I think you're just afraid to deal with these guys.
Well, you can think whatever you wish, but that's
They're
not the
hanging out
case.
in Union County.
You have a good day.
They're right here. All right. Clearly, corporate crime was not a priority for Union County's prosecutor. And not even the cop on the beat seemed concerned with the corporate menace around them. Because there are a number of corporate executives who live here.
You don't tell me, man. They pay my salary.
Do you have a corporate crime division here at all?
No.
You know,
we
that's...
don't deal with something like that in a small police department.
Enough was enough. If the answers were anywhere, they were at Bard's U.S. headquarters. So I headed in to round up the felons at large. Bard has pled guilty to 391 counts of criminal fraud, conspiracy, conducting illegal experiments with illegal heart catheters on human beings.
I'm not prepared to comment at all about
There were
those
3
issues.
executives that were found guilty and were sentenced to prison. This was like 4 years ago, and they haven't gone to prison yet.
Those issues are on appeal. Those are individual issues. They did not relate to the company.
These were top executives in the company, right? I mean, these were...
These were divisional executives, group vice president in Massachusetts for our businesses there.
And he was found criminally guilty by a judge and a jury, right?
It's kind of interesting. You're really talking about something that has nothing to do with the current status of the corporation.
Oh, we've changed. A familiar tune sung by many an unrepentant crook. But what is the current status of the C.R. Bard Company? The facts are chilling. Only last year, C.R. Bard had to recall over 3,000 of its catheters for exactly the same reason as they did 10 years ago. The tips were still breaking off. Last year, you had to do another recall of the heart catheters. Is that right?
I really can't comment on
What
it.
if the community is safe with criminals in the neighborhood, this being a criminal corporation? You know what I'm saying? And I actually have this ankle bracelet.
Leave our
all right?
facility. Thank you
I
very
have
much.
a parole officer here, Joel Karpoff here. He's our parole officer who would be willing to take the 3 executives to prison. Prison isn't really that bad.
If they are here, it doesn't look like they're coming out.
I guess they will stay on their appeal.
Yeah, it's like 4 years of appeal. I mean, you dealt with various people who've been convicted of crimes, right?
Yes, 4 years is a long time. Usually it's large corporations that do get away with things like this, and that's what we have to make sure.
Sir, how are you? Michael Moore. Nice to meet you. Huh? Turn what up?
You have no permission.
Well, it's an ankle bracelet.
You have no permission to be here.
If the 3 former execs were hiding out in their old haunt, the company was clearly unwilling to produce them for me. Sir, are you harboring criminals in here? Send them out. We'll take them to prison with us.
Trespassing. Have a nice day.
I think we have to go warn the neighborhood about these guys. We're here as part of our corporate crime unit. You haven't seen anything suspicious over here lately?
No, not at all.
If you could help us just keep an eye on things here in the neighborhood.
All right.
You do that for us, Jim? Sure. Thank you, sir.
Okay, Michael.
Thank
Good
you.
luck.
With Bard's neighbor agreeing to keep an eye open for me, I set up a perimeter outside Bard and started checking vehicles. Everything legal in the truck? You mind if we take a look? What's in here? Medical equipment? Hang on 1 second. They're not trying to sneak anything out. Go ahead. What do you got in here, boys? What do you got in here? You work at Bard? You work here? All right. We're just here because you know those 3 executives that got convicted and were supposed to go to jail? They're not in jail yet.
We didn't kill anybody.
You have the right to remain silent. I posted an appropriate warning outside the company and then moved further into the community, putting up flyers and instituting a neighborhood watch program. And finally, the police arrived to give me a hand. I'm glad you guys are here. We're here to enforce the law. Right. We're with you guys. That's why we got the Guardian Angels with us here. Okay. This is a company that they've got 3 executives. They've been convicted of a crime.
I could care less.
They're not in prison. Could care less? Those 3 words pretty well sum up the sad state of corporate law enforcement. Folks, this is where you come in. I'm asking tonight if you've seen any of these 3 men, David Prigmore, Lee Leichter, or John Sivanar, to email us at gotcha@corporatecops.com. Do not attempt to apprehend these men yourselves. And a special message to those of you in Boston. Be on the lookout for John Sivanar. Word has it that while appealing his conspiracy conviction, he has opened up a new company that develops medical devices and products. I'm Michael Moore, reminding you that it's every citizen's duty to take a big mouth-watering bite out of corporate crime. Mint Julep. Welcome back to The Awful Truth and Confederate Victory Night here, where we're celebrating the fact that the South and the Southern values have finally won here in the United States. It took them 135 years, but they did it. You know, one of the things that supposedly was abolished back then in the Civil War was slavery. You know, the kind of slavery where somebody owns somebody else, but we don't have that anymore. But we do have people working at slave wages, and funny, most of those people are black. So, why not celebrate one more Confederate victory, the fact that our fellow black Americans are still our slaves? Let's meet some of them.
My name is Elliot Roseborough. I'm a welfare to work recipient. I work approximately 22 hours a week and make $470 total per month. And I receive no benefits. Congratulations, Confederacy. Take my ass back to the plantation.
Hello, my name is Christopher Williams. I work for McDonald's 525 hours with no benefits. Congratulations, Robbie Lee. The South has risen again in the 21st century.
Hi, my name is Nicole Mitchell. I work for a Caribbean restaurant, 40 hours a week, $5.25 an hour with no benefits. Congratulations, South. Where's the next stop on the Underground Railroad?
Well, I'd like to introduce you to one of our correspondents this year on The Awful Truth. It's his first night on the show, Ben Hamper, an old friend of mine from Flint, Michigan. Welcome, Ben.
Hi, Mike.
Ben wrote a best-selling book called Rivet Head a few years ago about his working on the assembly line at General Motors. And then, how many years actually did you work at General Motors?
Even dozen years.
A dozen years. Were you ever laid off during that time?
4 times.
4 times. And what reasons did they give you?
There was oil embargo.
Yeah,
there
what
was
else?
Japanese influx.
Oh, yeah, they like to use that one. Yeah. What else?
We lost our military contract.
Oh, well, good. What else?
And then there was the last time when we won a big contract. The union did,
yeah.
and they just sort of took it out on us.
Yeah.
Said bye-bye.
Yeah. All lame excuses as far as I'm concerned for getting rid of people. But I got to tell you, Ben and I heard about this company up in Canada that had even a lamer excuse for laying off its workers. All right? You're not going to believe this, but Ben went up there to check out the situation.
And it was lame.
Woohoo! Watch this.
Imagine going to work every day to the greatest job in the world, making beer. The years roll by smoothly and swiftly.
That's the way life is for the people who inhabit Little Barrie, Ontario. This humble town of hard-working, decent folk is dedicated to just one thing: making the best damn beer in the world. They work, as they have for the past quarter century, for Molson Breweries, makers of Molson Ale and Molson Ice. But a few months ago, tragedy struck Barrie, Ontario. Molson decided that it would be more profitable to close their Barrie facility and move that beer production to Toronto. None of the Toronto jobs would be offered to the Barrie workers.
I believe that Molson's has a responsibility, not only to the people that work here, but also to Barrie as a community.
I put in 20 years here. I feel I'm a hard worker, and I want to work for Molson Breweries. We want our jobs, whether they're in Toronto or here.
Molson felt that the cultural differences between people who live in Barrie and people who live in Toronto would be too great, and would make the working conditions in Toronto too disruptive. So what could be the difference in cultures between Barrie, Canada and Toronto, Canada? As I located Barrie and Toronto on the map, I could see that the management for Molson had a point. Barrie and Toronto were over 45 miles apart. As someone who is an expert both on being downsized and being full of beer, I felt there had to be a way to bridge this cultural divide. First, I needed to know more about these two exotic and varied cultures. And there's no better place to start than with the cuisine. What kind of food do people here in Barrie eat?
We do a lot of fast food, Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Pizza, hamburgers, a lot of pizza, fast food.
The regular food people eat anywhere, you know.
Next, I compared the differences in climate and topography. Both seem to have a lot of ice, and both seem to really enjoy it. Finally, I observed their personal grooming habits. Most of the guys in Toronto wearing their hair similar to that now? Yep. Sure, on the surface, there were similarities between the two cities. But as Molson had indicated, there were also glaring differences.
Elvis Stoico practices at a rink near here.
Yeah, Elvis Stoico, the figure skater.
Stoico, yeah, that's right.
We heard he practiced here.
He practiced here, yeah, that's right.
That's right. There was no Elvis Stoico in Toronto. After downing a few more coldies, the solution came to me. If I could prove to Molson that there was, in fact, no difference between their Barrie workers and their Toronto workers, then maybe I could get everyone in Barrie their job back. I decided to start with just one worker from Barrie and help him make the huge cultural leap to Toronto. Meet Ken, a laid-off Barrie worker. How long you been over there at the beer plant?
At the brewery, I've got 22 years.
It wasn't too long ago you guys could drink in there.
When I first started in the brewery, it was nothing to, come in the morning and people would go to the beer fridge, have a beer.
Did you find Molson's a good place to work for overall?
Pretty good place to work for the 22 years.
As we sat down to a traditional Canadian breakfast, I began to put Ken through my ambitious Toronto orientation program. Beer. Beer. Hockey. Hockey. Beer. Beer. So far, so good. Confident that I had removed all signs of Ken's Barrie origins, I loaded him into the car and headed for the biggest test of all. I think if you just keep your eyes on me, I can help you adjust. Could a Molson worker from Barrie successfully hang out with a Molson worker from Toronto? There was no telling what would happen. Meet Chris, a beer worker from Toronto. Hi, Chris. This is Ken. This wasn't going so well. But then, I realized that these two men spoke a common language. Together, Ken, Chris, and I had crossed a great cultural divide. We had breached the Berlin Wall of breweries. We had drunk a whole lot of beer. So I say to Molson, rehire these workers from Barrie. With professional supervision, they too can make the cultural adjustment. just like Ken did. And remember, you can take the man out of the beer factory, but you can't take the beer factory out of the man. And until Molson rehires the workers of Barrie, shame on you, Molson, and shame on you, Toronto. But as for you, brave workers of Barrie, ask not for whom Elvis Stoico skates. He skates for you, Barrie. Elvis Stoico skates for you.
I love that song. Hey, we're celebrating the Confederate victory of America here. And, well, tonight, I can't think of a better way to celebrate that victory than with our children. I mean, no longer in America are they going to have to suffer under an oppressive amount of logic, common sense, and science. No, a number of states are getting rid of evolution in their textbooks. In fact, in some states, you can't even mention the word evolution in the classroom. You have to teach creationism, Genesis from the Bible. No more science, no more of those lies. And that's what we're celebrating here tonight with these children who are shredding various books from, what do you got, Charles Darwin here? You got Darwin? Okay, what do you got? Who's got a biology book here? You got the biology. Get rid of the biology. All right, watch your fingers there now. These shredders are pretty mean. All right, get rid of those. They're all lies. All right, we didn't come from apes, did we? Huh? No way. We're not from apes. No way. Biology. Oh, brother. Well, that's our show for tonight. I hope you enjoyed it. The Confederate victory. Finally, after 135 years, the Southern values, the Confederate conservative values dominate our entire country. Listen, if you want to learn more about the issues discussed tonight, check us out on the World Wide Web. We'll be back again next week, the same time, right here with The Awful Truth. Good night, everybody. Fly, you beautiful bastard! Fly!